Greetings, humanity of our world. We are anonymous. The war crimes, occupation, oppression, and inequality that the Palestinians are suffering from must come to a stop. Every American should be outraged that their tax dollars are helping fund this genocide. To see Congress giving away $3 billion of our tax dollars every year to fund Israeli war crimes, while our own economy suffers, and our needs aren't being met. The progressive community needs to rise up and take action for justice, freedom, and equality in the Middle East and here at home. Firstly, what is a Semite? A Semite is a member of any of a number of peoples of ancient southwestern Asia, including the Akkadians, Phoenicians, Hebrews, and Arabs. A Semite is one who is a descendant of these people. Did you notice the number of groups? 4, not 1. These 4 groups make up the Semitic peoples of the earth. But the term anti-Semitic is used only of those who dislike or hate Jews, or as a weapon against whoever the Jews don't like. Wait a minute, there are 4 groups who are considered Semitic. If I hate the Arabs, it is not anti-Semitism, but if I hate the Jews, it is. If the Semitic people are comprised of 4 groups, then any hate toward any group needs to be classified as anti-Semitism. Therefore, if the Jews hate the Arabs, then they are being anti-Semitic. If the Phoenicians hate the Akkadians, it is anti-Semitism. Eclectic definitions of anti-Semitism must not be tolerated in favor of one race. It is obvious then that the term anti-Semitism has been fostered on the non-thinking public as only alluding to the Jews, which makes the modern definition a well-planned deception. So if you want to label us anti-Zionist would be more accurate. Secondly, what is a Zionist? Zionism is a nationalist and political movement of Jews and Jewish culture that supports the re-establishment of a Jewish homeland in the territory defined as the historic land of Israel. Zionism emerged in the late 19th century in Central and Eastern Europe as a national revival movement, and soon after this, most leaders of the movement associated the main goal with creating the desired state in Palestine, then an area controlled by the Ottoman Empire. The primary goals of Zionism until 1948 were the re-establishment of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Zionism continues primarily to advocate on behalf of Israel and address threats to its continued existence and security. A religious variety of Zionism supports Jews upholding their Jewish identity, defined as adherence to religious Judaism, opposes the assimilation of Jews into other societies, and has advocated the return of Jews to Israel as a means for Jews to be a majority nation in their own state. In a less common usage, the term may also refer to non-political, cultural Zionism. Another less common meaning is the political support for the State of Israel by non-Jews. Advocates of Zionism shrouded as a national liberation movement for the repatriation of a persecuted people to the homeland they were dispersed from millennia before. But in truth, Zionism is a colonialist, racist and exceptionalist ideology that led advocates to violence against Palestine, followed by the exodus of Palestinians, and the subsequent denial of their human rights. The close friendship with the United States has been the linchpin of Israeli foreign policy for decades. Israel is the largest cumulative recipient of U.S. foreign assistance since World War II. To date, the United States has provided Israel $121 billion current or non-inflation adjusted dollars in bilateral assistance. Almost all U.S. bilateral aid to Israel is in the form of military assistance. Zionism and Judaism are very different. The Jewish people oppose the so-called State of Israel for 4 main reasons. 1. The so-called State of Israel is diametrically opposed and completely contradictory to the true essence and foundation of the people of Israel. The only time that the people of Israel were permitted to have a state was 2,000 years ago, when the glory of the Creator was upon them, and likewise in the future when the glory of the Creator will once more be revealed. Then He Himself, without any human effort or force of arms, will grant the Jews a kingdom founded on divine service. However, a worldly state, like those possessed by other peoples, is contradictory to the true essence of the people of Israel. Whoever calls this the salvation of Israel shows that he denies the essence of the people of Israel. and substitutes another nature, a worldly materialistic nature, and therefore sets before them a worldly materialistic salvation, and the means of achieving this salvation is also worldly and materialistic, i.e., to organize a land and army. However, the true salvation of the people of Israel is to draw close to the Creator. This is not done by organization and force of arms. Rather, it is done by occupation to the Torah and good deeds. 2. Because of all of this and other reasons, the Torah forbids the Jews to end the exile and establish a state and army until the Holy One will redeem the Jewish people. This is forbidden even if the state is conducted according to the law of the Torah, because arising from the exile itself is forbidden, and the Jews are required to remain under the rule of the nations of the world. If the Jews transgress this injunction, he will bring upon the Jews terrible punishment. 3. Aside from arising from exile, all the deeds of the Zionists are diametrically opposed to the faith in the Torah, because the foundation of the faith and Torah of Israel is that the Torah was revealed from heaven, and there is reward for those who obey it and punishment for those who transgress it. The entire people of Israel is required to obey the Torah, and whoever doesn't want to ceases to be part of the congregation of Israel. 4. Aside from the fact that the Zionists themselves do not obey the Torah, they do everything they can to prevent anyone they get under their power from fulfilling the commands of the Torah. The claims to freedom of religion are lies. They fight with all of their strength to destroy the faith of Israel. The Zionists claim that they are the saviors of Israel, but this is refuted by 11 main points. 1. If one contemplates the 2,000 years of their exile, take any 100 years, even the hardest, one will not find as much suffering, bloodshed, and catastrophes for the people of Israel than in the period of the Zionists, and it is known that most of the suffering of this century was caused by the Zionists. 2. It is openly stated in books written by the founders of Zionism that the means by which they planned to establish a state was by instigating anti-Semitism and undermining the security of the Jews in all the lands of the world, until they would be forced to flee to their state. And thus they did. They intentionally infuriated the German people and fanned the flames of Nazi hatred, with trickery and deceit, to take whole Jewish communities off to the concentration camps. And the Zionists themselves admit this. The Zionists continue to practice this strategy today. They incite anti-Semitism and then they present themselves as the saviors. Here are 2 replies given by leaders of the Zionists during World War II, when they were asked for money to help ransom Jews from the Nazis. Greenbaum said, 1 cow in Palestine is worth more than all the Jews in Poland. Weitzman said, the most important part of the Jewish people is already in the land and those who are left are unimportant. 3. We see that most of world Jewry lives in security and under good physical conditions, and have no desire to go live in the Zionist state, whereas many people have left the Zionist state to live under better conditions in other lands. 4. The Zionists make a great deal of propaganda to induce people to immigrate to their state. If their state is so beneficial, why do they have to make so much propaganda? 5. Because nobody wants the Zionists to save them. The only way they can get immigrants is by promising poor people material benefits, and even then very few people respond. 6. The Zionist state is always threatened by the dangers of war, whereas the rest of world Jewry live in peace and security, except in a few places where the Zionists have undermined their security and fanned the flames of hatred. 7. The Zionist state could not continue to exist without economic support from Jews living outside of the Zionist state. 8. The Zionist state persecute all Jews who are loyal to their faith. 9. They start wars that endanger the Jewish people, for the sake of their own political interests. 10. According to the Torah, the path of safety is following ways of peace, not starting fights with other nations, as the Zionists do. 11. Even if the Zionists could and would provide physical security, it would be at the expense of their faith and the Torah. The true people of Israel prefer death, rather than life at such a cost. It is therefore clear that Zionism is not the savior of the people of Israel, rather it is their greatest misfortune, even though there are some observant Jews and rabbis who approve of the Zionists. This is not the opinion of the Torah. The Zionists have enough control over the American news media to make sure that only their side of the story is heard. They make it look like all Jewry and their rabbis are Zionists, but this is false propaganda. The most important rabbis and the majority of religious Jewry are opposed to Zionism. but their voice is not heard because of Zionist control of American news media. The Zionists terrorize everyone who speaks out against them. That part of the Jewish masses which is fooled by Zionist propaganda puts pressure on the rabbis not to speak out. Between the terror and the pressure of the masses, most of the rabbis are prevented from speaking out. By now it must be obvious. There is a vast difference between the philosophy of Zionism and the philosophy of Judaism. You can't cloak what Israel is doing under the banner of religion. There's nothing holy, good, justified or morally acceptable about what is going on right now. The definition of genocide is the deliberate killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular nation or ethnic group. What Israel is doing is genocide. We have no problem with the Jewish people. We have an issue with what the Israeli government is doing. If this is just a political debate to you, then go look at the pictures. You have no right to defend what Israel is doing if you don't have the courage to even glance at the consequences. And anyone who would justify these crimes after seeing the civilian casualties should be ashamed of themselves. The bombing of heavily populated areas is a war crime, and the US is funding it with your tax dollars. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.